Hello folks, this is Bob Evans, your candidate for Butte County Supervisor, District 3, and this is week 7 in our weekly blogs of subjects of interest, I hope interest to you and certainly of interest to me. And before we get to the subject of today's blog, I just wanted to take a second to say thank you to all the people who've responded to this format, and I've gotten great feedback of people who like it, but I'm not necessarily want to single them out. I appreciate the feedback I'm getting on both sides. Obviously, this whole format is intended for you to get to know me a little better and my positions and stances, but it also has value in me getting feedback from you, so I learn more about what your concerns and what you care about, both positive and negative responses to what I'm talking about. Okay? So this week, I hinted at what we're going to do this week, the last couple of weeks, because I've had some veiled comments about what's coming out of Sacramento and their lack of support for business and the general business climate in California. So I wanted to take this week and talk about some information I got on this past legislative session, which just ended a week ago Friday, and some of the stuff they passed in California, where their priorities are. So I'm going to read this mostly because I want to make sure I get everything in here. So this week I want to continue with many other subjects that the legislature passed. And let's start with the cap and trade laws that passed and the taxes on gas and gasoline, diesel fuel, and of course your registration fees for your vehicles. All those together is predicted will send gas prices up to over $4 a gallon in California before the summer's over. $4 a gallon. We were back in the 250s or less here just a few months ago, but cap and trade is changing that. And I'm just going to go down the line of subjects here, and maybe I'll make an editorial comment. There's a proposed increase of a new tax for every residents to help pay for tap water. There's a $3.46 billion parks bond to pay for parks in disadvantaged neighborhoods. The debt service on that bond alone will be $200 million a year. There's a law to release any lifer, murderer, rapist, or people who molest children who are 60 years old and have already spent 25 years in prison. Do you realize that if Charles Manson had lived a few more months under this law, he'd be walking the streets a free man? That's insane. Let me go on. A new $50 charge on all residents living in mobile home parks to address living condition enforcement in those parks. Can you think of a more regressive tax than that? The legislature picked an official dinosaur for the state of California. I think they ought to call it Tax and Spend Dinosaurus. There's a new law that requires Tesla to either unionize with United Auto Workers or forfeit state incentives to buy their electric cars. Well, that's blackmail if I ever heard it, but certainly the unions love it. They want to reduce, or they have reduced, from a felony to a misdemeanor, the purposeful intent to transmit the AIDS virus to an unknowing partner. Next, give preferential treatment to prisoners convicted of a serious crime that are less than 25 years old because their brains are not mature enough to understand right from wrong. Can you believe that? 25. There's a bill to require our true sex to be omitted from driver's licenses. Of course, free legal services for all illegal immigrants. And then they want to establish, or they did establish, safe injection zones run by government to oversee people who inject heroin. All these passed. But here's one they didn't pass. After all that, here's one they didn't pass. And if you get the enterprise record, you've heard this. They have quietly tabled legislation that would have punished members of the legislature for sexual inappropriate behavior and discrimination. So despite their hard press on everybody else, private industry, local officials, county officials, the federal government stepped up a little bit, but not the state of California. They're going to protect all those people in the legislature who are accused of sexual inappropriateness. Classic California. There's more, but I don't want to go there. This has been a big downer. And of all of the blogs we've done so far, I think this is the most important one that needs to be passed on to your friends. So please share this vlog with anybody and everybody. We all need to be more aware of what's happening in California, not for us, but to us. And that ends this week's vlog. Next week, we'll be on a much better footing, a much more positive approach. And I'll see you next week. Have a great day in this beautiful county.